Hi, and welcome to another In the Brewhouse video. Today I have a very special interview that I'd like to share with you. Recently I had the privilege to share a brew day with none other than the infamous John Palmer. He was here in Oslo, Norway, and we had a very great day brewing together at Eikentid, which is a brew house that's very popular and familiar with Norwegian farmhouse ales. So what we did is we brewed up a Norwegian farmhouse raw ale, and John was there to be able to share the experience, and we got a few minutes at the end to sit down and talk and have a little In the Brewhouse video. So let me go ahead and share that with you now. Enjoy. Cheers. So this week I've got a very special guest. John Palmer is in the brew house. We're actually literally in a brew house.
We are indeed.
And we brewed up a beer today.
Yeah, we did I never can pronounce this word, Kvike? Kvike. There we go. There's a V in it.
Yeah, they pronounce it like a W.
Oh, okay. Kvike. That's why it's confused me, okay.
Mm-hmm. Norwegians. They pick on us all the time, so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me, how was the experience?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, this is a beer style that I've known nothing about before I came here this week. Learned about it a few days ago in Trondheim, and a couple of presentations there. And so I was really interested to brew one today with y'all. And you know, as you described, it's a raw beer. It's not boiled. It's fermented very warm, 30 plus degrees C, and but the flavors you get from it are quite nice. It's a kind of a citrusy ester flavor profile, and a little bit sour. Quite nice.
You had some taste notes earlier about the ones we had when we were brewing, talking about the umami flavors.
Right, yeah. I think one of the interesting aspects of it is because the wort is not boiled, you don't go through the hot and cold breaks that you traditionally do in regular brewing or traditional brewing, and that results in a lot more dissolved protein in the final beer, making it through fermentation, and I think as a result you get a creamier mouthfeel, heavier body, and then also what I was interpreting is kind of like an umami flavor, a little mushroomy, just interesting beers, not like any I've had before.
Yeah,
interesting.
Talking about what you've had before, what are some of the beers that you like to brew when you brew yourself?
I normally brew IPAs like everyone. I also like Vienna lager. I'm increasingly brewing beers like Munich Helles, softer, more sessionable beers. So Vienna lager, IPA, Helles. I've done some sours over the years. I like lots of different beer styles, but I'm often brewing beers that I enjoy drinking while I'm cooking.
Nice.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people know you, of course, for the books How to Brew, Water, Brewing Classic Styles. What we don't know is what's John Palmer like outside of that realm. What did you do before brewing?
Well, I was an aerospace engineer for a number of years, and then worked in the medical devices industry after that. I'm an engineer, I'm a metallurgist. So that's the engineering aspect is really what drew me to brewing. Looking at such a satisfying product and saying, how can I brew this better? How can I take the process and make it work better for me? So that's why I like brewing so much. Brewing was my chief hobby while I was working. Now that I'm not really working anymore, beer has become my career. Now I do hobbies such as wood turning and blacksmithing, bladesmithing,
Nice.
and those are a lot of fun as well. But I like to keep busy. I love traveling. These days I get to travel all over the world and meet great people that like to share good beer. It's like the best job in the world. So yeah.
When it comes to your transition from being a home brewer to getting more and more into it and finally letting go of the old profession,
Right.
and this becoming your profession, for me, I don't know, personally, today my wife as a hobbyist thinks that me making beer, that's my mistress.
Right.
And then how is the transition for you in the relationship at home?
Oh, well, it had gotten to the point where I was using all of my work vacation time for beer trips. And so come family vacation time, she's like, yeah, we need to take a vacation as a family. And I'm going, right, we should schedule that. No, and it was getting to be a problem. Fortunately or unfortunately, my job consolidated plants, and as a result, we had two people, for really only one position, and I got laid off. And my wife said, well, now you can go do your beer thing full time. And that was when I finished writing the water book. I'd been trying to work on it for a couple of years, and just, you come home tired from work all day, and it's like the last thing you can do is settle down and write something. So it enabled me to finish the water book. And
That's surprising to me because I had no idea about that. I would think when you and Jamil wrote, Brewing Classic Styles, or even before
Right.
that, when you wrote How to Brew, in my mind, I'd already thought that that's what you did full time. So you were working a completely different industry, and then
Oh,
you
yeah.
wrote those books at the same time.
Right, yeah. I would write those in the evenings, on the weekends. My wife would, do me a favor and take the kids off, to run errands or take them to the zoo, and give me a few hours on a Saturday to, crank some stuff out. I stayed up most nights working late. But with the water book was so technical, and I was really breaking, such new ground in terms of my knowledge and my lack of knowledge on water, trying to organize it all and set it all out, that I really needed, large blocks of time, 5 hours or more to, think about a topic, organize it, start writing it, read it and go back and research questions, because as you write, you realize you're going to say something, but you're not sure if that's always true. So you got to research it and verify that it's always true, or understand how to qualify it so it is. Tough job.
When you're at home and you're brewing, what is your brewing like these days?
Often I'm doing a 10-gallon batch, and sometimes, often I'll split that 10-gallon batch, because you can brew 10 gallons in the same amount of time it takes to brew 5. And I've got a gas-fired rims system, a Blickman top tier, very convenient, convenient way to brew. And then I'll split that 10 gallons into 2 5-gallon carboys and pitch different yeasts, or and dry hop, and do those little tweaks to make them different beer styles. But it's I miss the days when it was just me and a 10-gallon beverage cooler, and for the mash rather than a gas-fired rims, because it was pour the water in and let it sit and sparge and ready to go, and then just dump it to clean up. These days I've got lots of hoses I got to clean up, and flush out the counterflow chiller, and there's a lot more cleanup and so on.
Yeah.
The simple days were better days in some respects.
So are you like the rest of us, where you're just experimenting with the latest hops, or do you know or stick to what's tried and true?
I tend to stick to what's tried and true, because I started so long ago, and in the bad old days, or near the bad old days of home brewing, where people say, "Hey, try my beer," and you smell it and taste it and go, it's like, yeah, okay, too fruity, lower your fermentation temp, or too much acetaldehyde, or whatever flaw. It was usually, one of the flaws was often it was very fruity. And so today's hops, with all these different fruit flavors that I'm not used to associating with hops, I associate them with off performance from the yeast. To me, these beers taste like bad homebrew. So I'm not real keen on them. I mean, love the guys in New Zealand, and the hops down there are amazing. I just don't like to brew with them. I'm a Cascade, Centennial, Chinook kind of guy. So
Great combo.
Yeah, I also like brewing with the noble hops too. Tecnog or Saz, the American clones like Liberty and Crystal and Mount Hood. I think in nice lager or American wheat, they make just a wonderful beer. To me, it takes me back to those old days of sneaking that can of Pabst, kind of thing. So those are just the beers I like. I certainly understand everybody wanting to try something new. Certainly, I like new things, but when it comes to beer, I'm looking for those traditional or pseudo-traditional beer flavors that I was raised on.
Do you ever brew with other people, like at home?
Yeah, I'll have friends over, or I'll go over to friends' houses. A couple years ago, Drew Beecham and Denny Kahn and I brewed a clam chowder saison that was kind of interesting.
That's made the sound waves quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was a National Homebrew Conference where you shared it?
Yes, it was the one in San Diego, and it was actually quite good. I mean, it really worked well. It was.
It sounds like everybody was so surprised it worked out so well.
Yeah, and just it's one of those almost like a beer food pairing where you had the peppery, phenolic aspect of a Belgian yeast, complementing with the actual black pepper we added as part of the spices for the clam chowder. We used potato flakes, standard grocery store potato flakes, which really did a nice job in, thinning out the heavier barley flavor and kind of drying out the character of the beer, and really allowing those yeast characteristics to really shine, and without being overwhelmed by, say, the malt. So, yeah, it was a very effective beer.
So that's the next flaked barley replacement?
Yes, yeah. It is easy to use.
Nice. Brewing with friends at home. You're talking about like Vienna lagers and Helles, which I'm planning on brewing one up in the very near future. Yeah. What would be a recommended water profile for a Helles?
Okay. Well, first thing, start out with, what's your water source? Now here in Norway, you're blessed with with surface water, very low minerals. It allows you to add salts really easily. You've got low alkalinity, which makes brewing pale beers quite easy. Very often when I brew a Munich Helles at home, I have to start out with distilled water and then add salts to that. But you essentially have distilled water right out of the tap.
Pretty close, yeah.
So, yeah, when I look at designing a water profile for a style, I start out with the calcium. For, soft, charactered beers like Helles, where they're a light body, light malt flavors, you generally want a low but sufficient calcium level. So start off with the 50 ppm minimum. Maybe bump it up to 75, but somewhere 50 to 75 is a good place to start with that style with Helles or some of the other lager styles. And then look at, are we brewing a hoppy beer or a malty beer? In the case of Helles, it's kind of a balanced hop malt balance. So you would want your sulfate equal to your chloride. You would also not want a terribly high amount of sulfate in this beer. Sulfate tends to too much sulfate with noble hops tends to make a very sulfury character in the beer. So I would say, sulfate and chloride should be both about 75 ppm. Not low, not high, just kind of right there in the middle. And then alkalinity, total alkalinity in the water. This Helles is a very pale beer, so you want low total alkalinity and also low residual alkalinity. Residual alkalinity, of course, is the difference between the total alkalinity and the water alkalinity and the water hardness. So, as I was saying, calcium is only about 50 to 75. You want that residual alkalinity to be 0 or negative, so your alkalinity in your water has to be almost non-existent to maintain that low RA. So essentially 0, maybe 25 to 50 ppm of bicarbonate or alkalinity in the water. It's funny when you try to brew beer with distilled water and maybe one salt addition only, the beer can taste kind of watery. A little bit of bicarbonate really helps fill in the gaps. It's hard to describe, but it's there. So looking at the summary of our water profile, we're looking at around 50 to 75 calcium. Magnesium, not really important, so that could be like between 5 and 10 to ppm. The total alkalinity we want between 0 and 50 or 25 and 50. 25 and 50 is probably good in this case. Sulfate 75-ish, chloride 75-ish, and then sodium, that's just kind of a hanger-on. We really don't. All we care about is that its concentration is less than 100, so that it doesn't clash with anything else we're adding. To make this a balanced water profile, the sodium would probably end up being 35-ish to balance the cations versus anions and so on. So that's the water. It's kind of a low to moderate level of minerals, results in kind of a nice, soft, yet flavorful beer character.
Very nice. Sounds like the perfect Helles to me. Let's go brew it.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much, John, for joining me for this. I really, truly appreciate it, and it's been a fantastic day brewing with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.